About 5 months ago, you received an email, or perhaps saw a tweet, a message on Slack, or came across a post on Nightingale. You read that message and saw that another organization was asking for data and information about you. Maybe you looked at it, thought about it, and perhaps even clicked on the link and answered a few questions. Or maybe you decided it wasn't the right time for you to contribute in that way. Both courses of action are totally acceptable. What I want to thank you for is showing up to this conversation today. The data from that survey of visualizers around the globe is the most current and robust portrait of our data visualization community available. And today, I'm here to talk through your data and the story you've told about the future of the industry through those responses. This is the 5th annual State of the Industry survey, with origins even before the Data Visualization Society was established, beginning with Elijah Meeks's network of data visualizers in 2017, all the way through our most recent survey in 2021. While the questions on the survey have evolved over time, the overarching intent has remained to understand what it means to do data visualization. There are countless ways to meet this intent, and early iterations of the survey, we focused on what it means to do data visualization professionally, what types of tools are used, what challenges are faced, and how much time is spent visualizing. Another way to understand what it means to do data visualization is to explore who is doing the visualization, what characteristics we have individually that paint the picture of who we are collectively. That's the first question I'll provide some observations on here. We can also use data on what it means to be a visualizer to explore where we might be headed in the future. Some of these data trends over the past 5 years might provide insight into what we can expect to come. That'll be the second part of this presentation and tie into the principles shared by Andy Kirk and discussed during the upcoming panel in this session. Because there's no way to showcase the nuance and richness of the data in this abbreviated format, I'll also wrap up my portion with some notes on where you can go to learn more. So to get to the heart of who we are, what we do, and how we do it, over 2,000 visualizers, you, your collaborators, your data viz buddies, and even me, answered a series of questions across a number of different categories, including demographics, about our roles, how we practice visualization, our frustrations and challenges, and impacts of the pandemic. The survey was designed with branches where certain questions were only asked to people in certain roles, reducing the number of questions asked to any one person. On average, respondents were asked 47 of the 66 possible questions and completed the survey in 11 minutes. For the purposes of this presentation and for the report, all available data were used. So even if someone saw a whole section but chose to skip it, we still included their responses for the questions they did answer. Now to the data. Who are we, us, the data visualizers? To me, this question is far more important than what do we do? Though our job titles and duties can tell part of the story, and I'll discuss a little bit about how our roles help answer this question, I'm not going to dive into a detailed analysis on titles and compensation, as I don't think that's the whole picture of who we are as people. So first, I'm going to start big. We are a vast network of visualizers from all 6 populated continents and over 80 different countries, adding a few more countries to our count from the 2020 survey. The larger, darker colored dots on the map show more sizable cities. And here I've called out cities where we have 9 or more visualizers. So in the United States, these are cities like New York, Washington, D.C., Philadelphia, and Denver. In Europe, we have cities such as London, Berlin, Paris, and Barcelona. Our Canadian friends hail from Toronto and Montreal, among other places. And then we have some visualizers from Asia. The most populated city there, visualizers is Singapore. And then, of course, Melbourne and Sydney in Australia. Our global reach continues to be apparent when we look at participation over time. So this bump chart shows the relative ranks of top 10 countries over the last 5 years of survey data. While the United States, the United Kingdom, and Canada have held the top 3 spots since the inception of the survey, other countries have waxed and waned in participation, with visualizers from India increasing participation, while Spain, France, and Australia have been a little bit more variable. One of the things that I love about this figure is the number of countries that peak into the top 10 over the years, including Italy, New Zealand, Mexico, and Russia, demonstrating the breadth of our data visualization community. Another finding I love from the report are the vast number of languages we bring to data visualization. 47 languages, not including English. These range from Spanish, German, and French to Hindi, Russian, Swedish, Croatian, Arabic, and Slovenian, just to name a few. These also include folks who are polyglots. A handful of us who responded to the survey reported speaking 5 languages. And based on this extensive list of languages, data visualization of the future might show more efforts towards multilingual visualizations, increasing accessibility for even broader audiences. We also described ourselves in terms of our gender, as part of the LGBTQ+ community, or as part of a historically disadvantaged or underrepresented racial or ethnic group. Of those who answered the question about gender, 43% of us identified as female, 56% as male, and 1% preferred to self-describe. The unit chart on this slide shows the LGBTQ+ and disadvantaged or underrepresented breakdowns. 1 in 4 respondents, so it's 25%, identified as part of one or both groups, perhaps prompting DVS to consider how best to support its diverse membership across all of our unique characteristics. Those of us working within an organization were asked to identify the role that most closely aligned with our jobs and the sectors in which we work. The matrix plot on this slide and the next shows the intersection of these roles and industries with box size and saturation corresponding to the number of respondents at a given intersection. Many of us identify as analysts, a role which traverses every sector. Leaders from each sector were also represented in the survey, and for nearly all sectors, they were the second most represented role behind analysts. The fact that we have designers, developers, engineers, and scientists represented across most of these sectors shows me that we can pool our expertise and really learn from one another in these different industries, even if individual organizations don't yet have the capacity to have all of the experts in-house. I said I'd speak a little bit about job titles, and I wanted to mention that notably, 1 in 4 respondents held a job whose title contained analyst, analytics, or analysis. And 1 in 10 reported a job title with some form of visual in the name, so visualizer or visualization. And 1 in 100 had a title that included the term insight. All of these were slight increases from the job titles listed in the 2020 survey. There are also more roles like Chief Visualization Officer, Creative Director, and Visual Communication/Design Specialist. This variety in titles really demonstrates the breadth of our global data visualization community, and the increase in visualization-specific roles indicates more value being placed on visualization skill sets. So now that we know who we are and have some observations about how our characteristics might inform where the industry is headed, we can look at some of the data that more directly speaks to our future. We have a number of variables that we can look at across time, one of them being our years of data visualization experience. Even though the response options for the more than 10 years of experience bucket were truncated in the first few years of the survey, this overlapping chart in a vaguely ridgeline format shows how, as a community, we're both gaining more experience with higher proportions of seasoned visualizers in those advanced years buckets, as well as maintaining a contingent of our new visualizers who have 5 years of experience or less. I think it'll be really interesting to watch these charts shift over time as waves of new visualizers join the industry and the seasoned visualizers gain this additional experience. Of course, as these new visualizers emerge, we want to be aware of and support them through the challenges they may face when seeking to integrate data visualization into their work more formally. Respondents with 5 years or fewer of data visualization experience were asked what current or recent barriers they've faced. And there were 4 primary themes that emerged in these data. The first theme was time. So folks reported not having enough time to dedicate to practicing visualization or understanding the tools they need to execute data viz well. The second theme was that leadership at their organization or their support system in general wasn't valuing data visualization enough to provide the needed support in execution and actually moving data visualization forward. The third theme surrounded uncertainty in obtaining consistent work or needing steady compensation. And this, as described by participants, was really leading to a hesitancy in jumping fully into the industry. Finally, many new visualizers indicated they felt there was a gap in meeting their mentorship or training needs and were feeling a little unsupported in that way. Now, lack of time was actually our top frustration, regardless of whether we are relatively new to data visualization or a seasoned visualizer, or if we identify it as an employee at an organization or a freelancer or an academic. None of us have time. The word cloud on the slide, where both size and color of the phrase represent response frequency, shows that accessing data, lack of data expertise, and spending too much time on non-viz activity were the next most commonly selected responses after time. Across employment categories, more seasoned visualizers selected lack of time as their primary frustration and actually indicated fewer frustrations in other categories. New visualizers more frequently selected other frustrations, often in addition to time, including lack of technical skill. These differences across the visualization experience and roles are informative to DVS as we consider tailoring advice and other supporting resources, but are also really interesting just in that the seasoned visualizers still face challenges in making time, but their other frustrations aren't as prevalent, providing some hope for the new folks looking towards the future. Tools and technical challenges often emerge in discussions about the state of the data visualization industry. Of course, we all have our preferences in software, and there are many tools known for their steep learning curves or inadequacy for visualizing data. But at the end of the day, and over the last 5 years, we are using many of the same tools to get the job done. The 5 horizontal bubble plots show that the top tools are consistently Excel, Tableau, R, D3JS, Python, and ggplot, with PowerPoint making a recent emergence this year because it was added to our list of tools, as well as Power BI increasing in popularity. In many roles, our tools are chosen for us, which might explain why certain tools are so commonly used. As you can imagine, when someone else, often a non-visualizer, selects a tool for us, we might run into challenges. For both freelancers and employees, the primary challenge is that the chosen tools were inadequate in some way. We aren't able to customize the visualizations in the way we wanted, the tools limit our creativity, or the tool wasn't the best choice for the visualizations we were trying to develop. It'll be interesting to see if the standby tools remain at the top of the list or if other emerging software options will take their place. Many indicate that tools don't matter, and to some extent this might be true, but mapping our technologies at least provides some context into how we work and what our needs might be. Now, data visualizers are more than people who turn numbers into informative and beautiful figures. We also consider the importance of issues intersecting with our practice. So of a list of selected issues, we indicated our top 3 as the lack of data visualization literacy, the lack of awareness of the impact of data visualization, and data visualization not having a seat at the table in terms of conversations about what is needed. These top 3 issues were the same for both new and for seasoned visualizers. Many of us also indicated that ethical standards, data visualization accessibility, and diversity in tech are important to address. Individuals who identified as being part of a historically underrepresented or disadvantaged racial or ethnic group included diversity in tech as their 3rd most important issue, up from 6th in the overall distribution. We also identified and put words to our struggles with what other people just don't get about the data visualization work we do. I think this quote really sums it up: how much time it takes, how important it is, and how hard it is to do well. Quality data visualization can be hard and takes time, but this time can be really worthwhile if we can get our leaders or our customers to understand and get them to the critical observations and insights more quickly. So what? So what does this all mean? Well, it means that we are a robust and resilient global community, and we persevere through early challenges of learning tools and parsing data to continuing to seek that balance of time later in our careers to just spend on data visualization efforts. We work across borders, languages, cultures, histories, lifestyles, and roles to contribute our unique perspective to this evolving industry. And it'll be really interesting to see how we can collectively push through our barriers, address those important issues, and continue to flourish as data visualizers. As promised, I'm providing you with some resources to dig a little bit deeper. So these findings and more are included in our annual data visualization State of the Industry 2021 report. So please take a look and explore the data summaries and ideas on where to go next. We also are wrapping up the State of the Industry Survey Challenge, where visualizers like you have visualized additional data in exploratory and explanatory fashion from this survey. And that's a great place to go for additional insights and ideas. And if you have your own questions to ask, you can look at the data for yourself and answer them. So we'll provide links to all of these for you to access. My name is Jill Brown, and I'm so grateful to have been able to share these findings with you as a representative of the DVS Survey Committee. My heartfelt gratitude goes out to my fellow committee members and others who reviewed drafts of the survey report and made all of this possible. I look forward to the upcoming panel discussion, and thank you all for attending the session today or making time to tune in asynchronously as we address these important topics.